Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Coast-to-Coast Combat Hour. Hey, everybody. Ed Carbajal here. Coast-to-Coast Combat Hour. I'm solo tonight. Mr. Hawkins is handling some personal business this evening that came up unexpectedly, so I offered to take the helm. Let me zip this up so there's some white stuff bleeding into the video here. Sorry about that. Coincidentally, I'm wearing my Bellator hoodie too. Bellator is back this week. So we got Bellator 254, UFC 256. So let's go. Yeah. Coast to Coast Combat Hour brought to you by AllAccessMMA.com. Make sure you check out AllAccessMMA.com for your mixed martial arts news. We are, Tuesday? So I think weigh-ins are tomorrow. I just got the email. Weigh-ins are tomorrow. The ceremonial weigh-ins will be tomorrow for Bellator 254. I know Nolan King had tweeted out some stuff. We had lost a couple of fights, right? Or something got postponed. I think it's something we got to get used to, unfortunately, with the let's bring it up. I don't know if they updated their website yet. Excuse me. Oh, but they're starting at 7:30, so that means something. We lost something. Bellator 254 with Elimile McFarlane versus Juliana Velasquez, who's 10-0. So you got two undefeated young ladies on Thursday night's main event for Bellator 254. The one of the things. I'm sorry if I'm a little flustered. I'm doing this a little bit after dinner, and it's like 30 degrees here in Jersey. Matt always asks me how's the weather or how things are, and I always complain about the weather. And New Jersey, as always, has sucky weather. But we got Bellator 254, UFC Thursday, Bellator 256 Saturday. Wait, did I just mess that up? Yeah, Bellator 254, UFC 256 on Saturday. And then in between that, we're sandwiched with, I think we got 1, 2, 3 nights of Cage Warriors. So if you have UFC Fight Pass, you are going to be in for a treat with all the fights we got this week in between Bellator and the UFC and Cage Warriors. So I really didn't get a chance to. I had just started my UFC breakdown, but this card on the I wonder if I should share this up. Lately when I do, I'm not used to doing this podcast alone, but I am used to doing stuff alone. But I didn't have as much time as I wanted to prepare for it tonight. But where's the main card here? Nolan King just tweeted something about the co-main event for Bellator 254 that is absolutely flying under the radar. I agree with him 100%. Magomedov versus Matthias Matos. See if we can't share this. Let's try to keep up with the theme here, right? See if I can share this screen with you. Hopefully it doesn't mess up the stream too bad. Take a look at these fights that we got coming up here. All right, there we go. A little more like home, right? This is the fight that, in all honesty, coming off of Thanksgiving week, I have to admit I've been a little sluggish in the brain. Probably haven't been as updated or as up to speed with the upcoming events. I've been so focused on, if you look at all the, I'm going to get into that too. The COVID cancellations. It's almost like between keeping up with that and then obviously with the news of fighters getting cut and things of that nature, it's just to the point that we're if you're in the combat sports space, your head's probably spinning, and the only ones that are probably the most focused right now are all the fighters competing in the next few days. I mean, tie that up with it being the end of the year and COVID and vaccine news and all that stuff. It makes for a crazy time, right? So, the main card is on CBS Sports, and this was a fight that I actually, because Goiti Yamauchi's submission guy, and you know how I like my submission fighters. So this is actually a really tight main card. Ronnie Marks and Linton Vassell. I think Ronnie Marks is one of Chael's peoples from ATT Portland, and Linton Vassell we haven't seen fighting a little bit. And you'll have to forgive me. I'm used to having the encyclopedic mind. Sorry, the encyclopedic mind of Matthew Hawkins, helping me out with these. But Jesus, this weather's killing in my throat. This is actually a really good card on Thursday night. This one's tough to call for me. I guess Linton's got the experience. No, I mean they're about even in experience. I feel like he's definitely got a height advantage, which means he's probably got a bit of a reach advantage. If his output is what I recall, he can definitely fire away and either get a win on points. But Marks is no slouch himself. He's pretty tough. I've seen him fight a few times. I think he fought in WSOF. PFL transition card. I forget what. I think they were still under the WSOF banner. This fight, when you put two undefeated fighters together, there's something about someone is going to have to take an L that night, right? So if we got the champ who's been pretty good at defending her title for quite some time now, I wouldn't be surprised if, of course, the night that I do the podcast by myself is when my throat starts dicking around, right? It's one of those things that with 2020 and how odd everything has been, I wouldn't be I can't pick against Eileen Millay though. I've been following. Actually, if you check this YouTube channel, I interviewed her. That was just before she made her title run. She's evolved so much and become so dominant in her weight class. I wouldn't be surprised if she just hands this girl her first loss. The fight with Vita Artiga, I know, is one she kind of wants to get back because that was a tough fight, and it got ended because of the cut that Artiga got. So I don't know if Velasquez got there, because of the matchmaking and everything going on with COVID. I feel like all the matches and rankings in any organization anywhere went out the window when trying to make fights. But I mean, it's weird because the fights, especially looking at this card, these are all great fights. I mean, these are all really, really great fights. This is the one that Nolan was talking about being a scrap. I wouldn't doubt it, man. I mean, I didn't realize how stacked this card was until I'm looking at it now. I mean, I always pick Yamauchi because I love his submission game, but it seems like if folks keep him away from where he's comfortable, that's one that's going to be definitely up in the air to watch. And then we have the prelims. Prelims are always on the Bellator YouTube channel. It's what's funny is so East Coast time is prelims start at 7:30. So Matt is always up in arms about how the Bellator cards aren't that he's still kind of working and stuff or making his way home. But I feel like this is a more where's the event? Here we go. Let me just stop sharing it. Yeah, 7:30 on Thursday, the prelims. And then the main card at 10 o'clock is like a decent main card time. So Thursday night should be a pretty live fight. I'm looking forward to that. I mean, as far as making predictions, man, it's this card is so good. I don't even want to really mess with it. I mean, if you want my picks, Matt would probably disagree with some of them, but our picks haven't been on point this year. We'll say, especially mine. Mine have been horrid. I got Elimale, Magomed, because we have a running joke about the Magomeds on this podcast. I'm gonna call Yamauchi by Weird Sub, and then this fight right here opens up the main card. I think Linton's height and reach. I think he's just gonna he might be able to outstrike Marks on that card right there. So Bellator's back on Thursdays. They took off for Thanksgiving. I'm looking forward to this. I didn't realize how stacked this main card was. I don't know if anything fell apart. I don't mean to like kind of brush by this card, only because again I hadn't researched it that much, and this is kind of impromptu. But let me find out if there's there's been a lot of news with the upcoming UFC card. But before we move into that, I feel like some of the things that need to be addressed are as we transition over to the UFC news, the cuts. Obviously, Dana White. It's weird when he mentioned. I think it was at the 255 press conference. Excuse me, where he mentioned that their roster was very inflated, and I guess it didn't trigger anyone else that cuts would be coming, and I guess as we're going into the beginning of a new year, cuts are happening. Rachel Ostovich got cut today. For some reason, I thought Yair Rodriguez was going to be one of those cuts, but he's on suspension because of the whereabouts thing. Yoel Romero, obviously, Yoel Romero was kind of the catalyst news that made Dana White have to speak on that. So let me stop sharing this for a minute. And as I bring up the UFC 256 fight card, because I have a lot to say about that too, as well as some of the news that came about from as we are beginning fight week. Tuesday is usually travel day if you're off fight cards on Saturday. So I would imagine fighters got to make their way a little sooner because of quarantining and testing and stuff like that. Seems to be the theme of the year with everything going on. So I forget how many fights were on that card, but they're down to like 10 fights or something now, and I would imagine we're going to gain or lose more as we near it. I tweeted out the news, their UFC press release earlier. Here we go, Davison Figueroa. I wonder if they updated on their website. I'm just checking here. It looks like Kevin Holland and Jacare Souza. I know that was one of the fights pushed back from a week or two ago, right? Because somebody, I believe, wasn't it Holland that had COVID-19 and or tested positive for it. Maybe he wasn't showing symptoms or whatever, and now he's negative. But I would imagine, it's only Tuesday, and last week's Vegas event, we lost like 3 fights the day of, right? So I wouldn't. If you're a gambling person and you're gonna place bets, I'd place those bets, day of. Oh boy. Let me see. I'm gonna bring this up here. I have a really big concern I'm gonna bring up, especially with the main event. And I'm trying not to be that guy. I don't want to be the guy that jinxes stuff, but it is what it is in the era of COVID. Here we go. Let me bring that up. As we always do. We UFC.com's main card listing as of right now. None of these are on. Let me see if I can find the press release just to make sure I'm not talking about fights that aren't happening. Oh, I just tweeted before, by the way. Israel Adesanya got his purple belt in jiu-jitsu from Andre Galvao. It was a pretty emotional moment for him, it looked like. So if you didn't check that out, check it out, man. It's good news for him. Looks like he was very humbled and happy to get it. It's definitely taken by surprise. He got emotional about it. Belt promotions are an emotional time, man. If you're a jiu-jitsu guy, you know, it is what it is in the it's one of those, it's one of the more humbling martial arts. And so when you get ranked in it, it's always something that you're just like, wow, I earned this. And you could see that in Israel Adesanya's face. So congratulations to Israel Adesanya for getting his purple belt. All right. All right. So there's so much to talk about with the UFC 256. First, let me read off their press release from earlier this afternoon. Due to positive COVID-19 tests, the following changes will occur for the weekend's event. And this is as of right now. What are we? Quarter after 7:00 on a Tuesday night. So we got a lot of days coming of stuff to happen. Number 12 ranked women's strawweight Angela Hill she put that up herself on Instagram, but her fight was taken off. Her versus Tecia Torres. Replacing Hill will be newcomer Sam Hughes, who finished 4 of her 5 victories, including a recent first-round stoppage. And then Dwight Grant is being removed from his bout with Li Jing Liang, and they said they were looking for a replacement. I feel like this is going to be a hard week to get a replacement, so I know they're trying to save the card from diminishing. Was last weekend was like 8 fights on the card, right? I mean, which is that's rough. That's rough to move forward with, and I mean, it's rough because I feel you can see Dana White's face. You can see Dana White's face when he has to kind of address what's going on and stuff. So I don't know, man. Credit where credit is due for moving forward. I know, fighter pay and all that stuff. Everybody likes to get in, on their soapbox about stuff. But I mean, he's giving us something to talk about, and it looks like he's having a rough time of it, just as rough as the beginning, as we come near the end of the year. So crazy time of year. I mean, crazy year all around. But where's his press release? So I left off with about they're looking for a replacement, so that Jing Liang has someone to fight. And then the middleweight bout between Carl Robertson versus Dalcha Lungiambula, sorry if I messed that up, is being moved to the Thompson Neal card on December 19th. And then due to injury, number 11 ranked women's flyweight Andrea Lee's bout against Julia Robertson is canceled. Robertson will now face Dana White Contender Series Brazil veteran Tyler Santos also on the 19th. So looks like everything else is still good to go. But that was the latest release from them. If we lose anything else, I'm sure, it'll be closer to fight night than later. And that sucks to say. Again, I'm not wishing anything bad on anybody. These guys are all just trying to make a living. I just feel horrible about all this COVID nonsense. It's really weighing us all down this year, man. I hate to be all down and out about it, but I don't have Matt here to lift my spirits. So anyway, let's get into this card. I'm going to say a lot about the main event, so let's look at what's listed as of now. Hopefully nothing else has been lost since I started doing this. So Junior Dos Santos, I feel like that is a little too soon for him. I know he didn't he oh man, let's bring up there number 7, the heavyweight division, man. Where's Matt? Matt usually has the correct records, as the UFC sometimes doesn't update their full stats here. I mean, I think we had a thing where we were picking against Dos Santos and we wound up regretting it, or was that Glover Teixeira I'm confusing you with? But I mean, I don't know. I don't know much about his opponent here. I mean, it looks like again, judging by their records, that this just might be a logistical matchup that's due to everything going on. This fight, Kevin Holland versus Jacare Souza. I mean, I'm a jiu-jitsu guy, so I'm always going to root for Souza. But so you guys know I do this thing for MMAnews.com, the Sunday submissions, where I kind of like do a recap of everything from the weekend. It's sort of like this, but with a better format. I don't want to write it off to the whole COVID situation because it's just something that happens in the sport overall that we've been just it's hard not to notice that. I feel like in recent years in MMA, the guard changes or gets passed for these fighters that were iconic and great. It seems to happen more frequently than I'm used to seeing as long as I've been watching this sport. And Holland has been super impressive. I know he picked up the name Big Mouth, and Dana White was kind of just like throwing him into the fray because of the way he spoke, but he's been backing it up. And as much as I'm a fan of Jacare, been watching him fight forever. Fan of his jiu-jitsu moves. I actually use there's a collar choke that he does, a lapel choke that I saw him do, and I've added it to my game, and it's one that I have a pretty good success with. I hate to pick against him, but I don't know. Holland has definitely been impressive. I mean, he just seems game, and it's a young man's MMA is a young man's sport, and I know when you're looking at like guys in 30s and 40s and stuff like that, that's really not old in life, but for fighting, it's pretty old. You know what I mean? So, I don't see. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Holland picks up a victory, but if Jacare can submit him, then hey, I don't mind being wrong. I didn't check the odds on that, but if Jacare is the underdog in that fight, I would do I'd pick him to win by submission if the numbers are good. You know what I mean? Renato Moicano. So I've been impressed with him. I know these stats here have have the KO rate leaning towards Rafael Fiziev, but I mean, if you look at the sub percentage and the decision wise and the fight time, I guess they don't have information on him. Maybe that's why this guy's zeroing out in some places. But I know Moicano's a worker. I see him. I mean, you always got to worry about when somebody comes from like Kazakhstan or one of these stands, Dragistan or wherever you want to call it. What's this guy saying? Danny from the last round. I don't mind you being wrong either. Yeah. I prefer being right though. But I wouldn't be surprised if, again, for this fight, I'm leaning Moicano, not just because of the. It looks like there's a disparage and difference in experience and stuff here, but I wouldn't be surprised if, if Moicano just outworks Fiziev and he wins by decision or catches a sub or just outworks him somehow. This is the fight. Tony Ferguson tweeted something weird today. I guess there's a concern of Oliveira not making weight, and Ferguson kind of just said he's not fighting if Oliveira doesn't make weight, contracted weight, then this fight might not be on. So I guess that's something we're gonna have to sit and sweat about until weigh-ins come. I like the fight a lot. I really want to see it. I hope it doesn't get scrapped. But even though he lost that fight against Justin Gaethje, I mean, it's Tony Ferguson. Dude is something else. Number 3 against the number 7 ranked lightweight. Is this contracted at lightweight? I think it is. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it is. Contracted at lightweight. So I don't know why there would be an issue with weight, but whatever. I mean, Tony Ferguson that was in May, right? Was that May or April they fought? Because COVID started in March, they pushed it back. It might have been April. I'd have to look back at his record, but he's had plenty of time to rest. And the dude definitely likes to be right there in line for a title, contention shot, whatever you want to call it. He just, him and Gaethje fought that war, and not for nothing, he didn't go down. He didn't go down. He did his raging bull. He shook his head off. He took too many blows. I mean, he was dancing afterwards. So he's definitely got the right mindset to still get after it and get a title shot. I don't blame him for saying that on Instagram or tweeting that out or whatever he said about the weigh-in thing, because if you remember the whole Gaethje situation or Khabib situation, however that wound up working out, with COVID and Khabib went home and that fight had to get made. If you remember how that happened, he made weight for the original scheduled date, and then he had to kind of stay ready for the rebooking. And even Justin Gaethje said that the way that rebooking happened and the way it was announced and planned and stuff like that, it didn't. It wasn't something that left a lot of room for preparation for these guys. So other than staying ready and waiting to hear something, which is probably what Ferguson did, based on he said afterward it was the longest fight camp ever, and Gaethje had his comments leading up to it. How he said he found out through social media or something to that effect. So I don't blame him for not wanting to go through that again. You know what I mean? So if he's going to do his thing, which he always what's his quote, champ shit only. So if he's going to do his champ shit only, then I think he's well within his right to say, guess what? I'm going to go get fat now, and I'll see you next year if his opponent somehow doesn't make weight. So I'm not going to fault him at all on that, but I am picking him to win should they fight. I like Oliveira too. I know he's got some nice ground game, great all-around fighter. But I just Ferguson is just like we see all the memes with his training methods and stuff like that. It's just I hope it happens, because the fight could be fight of the night. However, our main event has two dudes that are more than game to face one another. They literally just fought in the last pay-per-view. Both of them got first-round victories, right? Moreno's was the TKO because of Royval's shoulder thing, which, man, that was unfortunate, because that fight would have been – Brandon Royval's been on this podcast. So that was unfortunate that we saw it end the way that it did, but it left a fresh Brandon Moreno as a number one contender for this title shot that he's going to get this weekend. And so here's my concern, and I I ain't trying to drag Figueiredo through the mud here or anything because of the whole, this whole flyweight title situation. If you remember the first time he fought Benavidez, there was he didn't make weights. He won, but he couldn't get the title because he didn't make weight. And he rectified that. He made it a point to prove he showed up. I think he showed up on weight for the last pay-per-view, ready to go for that event, and we saw how dominant he was. But now, this will be the thing that lets me put it out of my mind forever. If there's no issues this week, COVID is something else. But if he makes weight, ready to go, no issues, doesn't get rushed to the hospital or none of that stuff, no sunken eyeballs, or I think they do their media day tomorrow, so we'll see during interviews. We'll see if he makes it. If he does this healthy, and he took like maybe one or two shots. He blocked him pretty well from the last fight. Moreno got in some scrambles, but they were both injury free relatively. So they stayed in Vegas. So hopefully, I doubt any of them celebrated Thanksgiving really. I got too fat if they did. So if he makes the scale, the numbers and everything, then we should never bring up that weight issue again. because so far he's been a great champion. Something about him seems to draw. And both of these guys, I mean, I really like Brandon Moreno, man. Brandon Moreno, if you remember for the last pay-per-view, when we saw that it was going to be Royval and Moreno in the fight, I was so amped to see that fight happen. I couldn't even make a pick because I know both guys are like such game fighters, and that's pretty much my view on this fight, with the exception of everything I just said about Figueiredo. I feel like if Figueiredo is guilty of bad preparation, or he's a champion, so you would think that motivate him, right? But with the quick, we don't know how well these guys are handling the quick turnaround from one pay-per-view. I mean, literally the very next pay-per-view, a few weeks apart. So I guess the guy that's shown to be more disciplined, Moreno's hungry. I mean, he kept on calling for it right after his win, and I mean, it looked like Figueiredo was called for him. If I recall, Figueiredo called out Moreno too. And I mean, it's just like, it's one of those fights that it's like, thanks for doing them. Sean Shelby and all those guys were probably like, thanks for doing the job for us, because we needed something. Because if you remember, it was supposed to be Peter Yan versus Aljamain Sterling. I mean, Yan's dealing with something back home in his country that it looks like they just we're gonna have to wait for them. It sucks because I know Aljamain's been gunning for that title shot for a while, but it is what it is, man. But that's the last pay-per-view of 2020, man. What a crazy year. I think between this event and then the December 19th event, where some of these fights got moved to, we'll have to start doing our fight of the year candidates, with the exception, obviously, there's, the New Year's Eve stuff with Ryzen, and what else do we have? A couple of fights in between. I know there's going to be some regional stuff going on, CFFC. And I don't know if Bellator has anything going on next Thursday. I'd have to. I already closed that webpage, but yeah, man. I mean, again, it's funny that Daniel Zaldivar dropped his comment here, because we were actually trying to get him and Mike back on again because of all the Jake Paul, Floyd Mayweather news. I mean, just to kind of, it's so 2020, right? To see that's something that's going to be a thing in February. I thought it was a joke, and I thought it was Floyd Mayweather kind of clowning us. But then I went to that fanmeo.com website, and I saw that they had the prices up for the pay-per-view. Apparently, if you order it earlier, it's cheaper, like around the $25 range, and the closer you get to it, the price goes up. But I don't know. I posted a question on Quora, the question and answer site, asking if that fight was good or bad for boxing. So if you listen to Mike Tyson's take on it at the end of the Triller event that him and Roy Jones faced off on, Mike Tyson, he has a good point where he says, someone like Paul, and Jake Paul said something too afterward. Tyson said that fight, bringing brand new eyes in his fan base, with all his viewers and stuff that he has, brings new eyeballs to boxing, and maybe if he keeps doing it, they'll keep tuning in, and eventually, see other more seasoned boxers, and bring kind of bring some love to boxing. Boxing seems to get a lot of hate, right? But then you see all these fights, a lot of Kevin Iole. I mean, I wanted to get Danny and Mike's take on it. But I mean, there's also these legitimate contenders that have been training the sweet science all these years, longer than Jake Paul. They probably, they probably have the records and stuff to warrant the paydays and stuff like that. And it's almost kind of like an undermining, a slight to them. So I see where they're coming from. I can see both sides of it. And then the other thing that I was going to say, Jake Paul did an interview, I believe it was with TMZ, where he talked about how not only did he agree with Tyson's sentiment, but he wants to bring more fans back to. He'd like to help bring fans back to boxing, and the thing that he has that other boxers don't have, and which was probably true, was his experience with marketing and content and things like that. And that was kind of like, okay, you know what, you got that, because I mean, look at what's happening for him because of the way he's done things. I think he gave some credit to Ryan Garcia for being somewhat down with that, the whole way things are marketed through social media and Instagram and stuff like that. I mean, me and Matt, we've said on this podcast before, we're old. We don't we don't know what the hell we're doing half the time anyway, or what young folks want to see or do or whatever. We kind of just do this podcast because we enjoy the fight game and we respect the time that fighters put in and stuff like that. So, which is why we don't get Jake Paul, but I do get that and what he said. Oh boy. So, yeah, I mean, we have this is the last pay-per-view. Then there's the pay-per-view, that's an ESPN Plus card, the Jeff Neal and Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Neil Thompson card on December 19th. And again, there's a lot of regional stuff on Fight Pass. If you haven't, I mean, if I have to say something, if this is going to be like the end of the year podcast, which is probably not, but I got to, since I have the floor and I'm trying to get as close to our combat hour as we can on my own here. I have to say that the events offered on UFC Fight Pass, and they're not sponsoring us or anything like that, but that's been my Submission Underground, Submission Underground, all the regional stuff, all the MMA, and they're going to be adding more stuff next year. They made an announcement that even after we were done recording last week, Matt was like, I think I got to go back to Fight Pass. I mean, that has been my personal combat sports savior of this whole COVID situation, like there's always been something to watch. They got Kung Fu movies even, but there's always been something to watch there on top of, the original content and stuff like that. So again, they're not paying me or anything like that. I'm not trying to dick ride Fight Pass or the UFC or anything like that. I'm just, saying the truth here, So the UFC 256 Saturday, Bellator 254 on Thursday at 7:30. So Matt, if you're watching or you listen to this, man, I hope that makes you happy, because I know you like a 10 o'clock main card is what's that? 7 o'clock your time, right? I think so. So that means you're going to be able to watch it, and we usually message each other while he's out there on 3 hours behind me on the West Coast. But yeah, I'm almost at 40 minutes. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I've forgotten to mention. Let's see. We talked about the cuts. We talked about Clarissa Shields. Clarissa Shields and the PFL. I feel like Clarissa Shields, it's funny. I just talked about regional stuff. Kayla Harrison got herself another fight at Titan FC next week, right? 10 days from now, I believe. Titan FC 66. She's fighting Josette Cotton, who she's fought already in the Pro Fight League. I think that was in 2018 they fought. So that's a rematch. That's her second rematch, because she fought Larissa Pacheco twice in her season run, I believe, of her when she won the lightweight title there. So I'm wondering if there's a way that they find each other, because with the way fighters are seeded in the Pro Fight League in their season format, why am I forgetting her name? We thought we were going to see Kayla versus Jesus. Her face is in my mind from the UFC. Nobody. But that fight never got to happen, and then it'd be, if they get to each other, I doubt they're going to book them and seed them first, because Clarissa's putting in her time with Jackson Wink in New Mexico. If you saw, there's been pictures of her and John Jones, and she just tweeted now. That's what reminded me to talk about it. That she, what did she say? I got it. You know what I like about Clarissa Shields making this move? I can't believe I was. This is what she just tweeted. Can't believe I was doing BJJ today. It's just the beginning, but I'm happy to learn and have some understanding of it. If you watch her hit pads, um, in that one of the videos that's been shared out there, in between her explosive striking and stuff that she's doing, throwing the kicks, she's smiling. Like you could tell she's having fun with it. And I feel like that's just something that it's going to make her dangerous, And when I see that, it makes me motivated to want to see where she goes with it. I feel like people are right away. There's people that she's been trolled. I know she's been fending off trolls and stuff like that. But I mean, if her and Kayla find each other, that's definitely going to be some major eyeballs. But the way the thing that I love about the professional fighter league format is there's really nothing you can do, trash talk, hype, marketing certain fighters like that. Because if I know the PFL has invested heavily in Kayla, but she's been able to back it up, and she's been, she's hungry to fight and compete, and so is Clarissa Shields. So it would be a classic striker versus grappler matchup if that happens. But I mean, we'll have to wait for their 2021 season to start to see how that goes. I mean, given her she's green to mixed martial arts, they might want to build her up a little, like kind of like Kayla do her season, and have Clarissa fight one of these like non-season bouts, kind of the way they did with Kayla when she first came in. I think it was still under World Series of Fighting when she had her first one or two fights, and then they had her as a featured bout during the season prior to her, winning the lightweight tournament. So I mean that might be the way to go. But Shields doesn't want to stop boxing either, so I would imagine she's in between seasons. If she stays with them, she's going to pick up some boxing matches if they come her way. But listen, if you watch Clarissa Shields, Amanda Serrano, Heather Hardy, follow their social medias, you'll know the reason they're dipping their toes in MMA is because, how shall I say it? I mean, it's just me tonight, so I'm going to be frank. Shit ain't sweet when it comes to the ladies getting fights booked for them in boxing. So I mean, more power to them for making this move. I love it, man. I mean, if you look at, I wrote something for Sure Dog about the fight with Heather Hardy and Anna Holoton, how they both kind of mentally agreed with each other, like, hey, let's try this MMA stuff against each other and see how it works out. And I covered that event in Mohegan Sun for Bellator, and they were getting booed and stuff like that. But I was like, I mean, I was kind of like, hey, come on, man. Everybody's getting, everyone's giving Floyd Mayweather crap for okay, you did boxing, but you won't come to MMA. And here I just read off a full list of ladies that have done both and will jump back and forth as long as the money's right. They could give a damn about their ego. They should to check their egos at the cage door, if you will. So anyway, that's where I'm going to leave that. Matt usually takes us out of here. 43 minutes. I think that's good enough. That's close enough to an hour. Again, my apologies on Matt's behalf. Sometimes life throws curveballs at you and you got to deal with them. So shout out to Matt Hawkins. We love you. I hope I made you proud with this solo broadcast, but we thought about postponing. Probably would have been the move given the state of fights and COVID. But I got stuff I have to do between now and the fight weekends. I think I'm doing live results for one of the Cage Warriors events. Obviously, the Bellator is Thursday night, so we wouldn't be able to record Thursday night. And I think the Cage Warriors I'm doing is Friday. Plus, I have my own training and stuff I'm trying to maintain, just to keep my own sanity and whatever happening before. Lord knows when we're going to get shut down like the California did. So I gotta get it in while I still can. But yeah, wear your mask, be safe. Follow us on Combat Hour at Twitter, Coast-to-Coast Combat Hour. I forgot how Matt spells it. We're on Instagram though. Make sure you check him out at MMA Hawk 21 on Twitter. Carbazel right there on the bottom on Twitter. Old Head Carb on Twitch. I haven't streamed anything in a minute because I've been busy. And this podcast, all the video versions of it and what have you, live at allaccessmma.com. Make sure you check out allaccessmma.com for some fresh content, fight news, interviews from guests on this podcast. We had James Lynchy, who contributes there as well. And yeah, that's it, man. Hopefully we get all the fights we want this weekend. And I hope you had a great Thanksgiving and all that stuff. I forgot. I'm already kind of lost on what's going on in the world right now. But we should be back to normal next week. And I hope I did the podcast justice. Sorry I got no guests or nothing like that. Again, I mean, it's a freaky week this week. Freaky week. So, but thank you so much for tuning in, those that watch the live stream. And yeah, I'll talk to you, I guess next Tuesday, if the world has not ended or obelisks haven't popped up in the middle of the country or anything like that yet. All right, take care. Thank you, everyone.